Hi, this is your Sapin Bharti, and we are here at KubeCon Atlanta, and we have with us once again Alex Chircop, Chief Architect at Akamai. Alex, great to have you back on the show.
It's always fantastic to be here. It's one of the highlights of KubeCon.
And it's I was looking forward to chat with you as well because there is so much to talk about, especially that is 10th anniversary of Cloud Native Continuum Foundation (CNCF). So, talk a bit about when Kubernetes or CNCF was announced. Where were you? What were you doing? What was your reaction?
That was a long while ago. I mean, Kubernetes celebrated its 10th birthday last year. It's CNCF this year. I mean, it's kind of amazing where we've come. The cloud native projects have had, 290,000 different contributors. It's kind of insane the amount of community engagement. Over 190 countries. So it's everywhere. But I do remember sort of being at one of the early KubeCons, and they weren't that big in those early days. And I was working at a startup at that point, and we were looking at what Kubernetes was doing and how containers were working. And I kind of turned to my founder, and I was like, my co-founder, and I kind of said, this is it. This is going to be the thing. And it turned out to be a fantastic success. So I'm kind of really happy that I kind of got onto the cloud native bandwagon and have been working on cloud native ever since.
And if you just reflect on these 10 years, and if I ask you, what has been the most transformative milestone or lesson that we can learn from it, which has shaped the whole cloud native world? Because today we cannot talk about cloud without talking about CNCF, without talking about Kubernetes. So talk about that.
It's hard to pick one thing, and I won't pick one thing because the ecosystem is what it is because of all the different components of the ecosystem. And when you kind of look back, you sort of see, okay, first there were containers, and as soon as application developers had a portable way of deploying their applications, it kind of became obvious that it needed to be orchestrated, and we needed to have a way of scheduling work across multiple nodes and moving to sort of horizontally scaling applications. And that's what made Kubernetes come around. But then shortly after that, we had, storage and networking with CSI and CNI, and we had various security tools. And then we had service mesh and all the capabilities that brought with making workloads observable. We had the packaging systems with projects like Helm, for example, that allowed us now to create more sophisticated applications that could be deployed anywhere. And of course, it continues to grow with environments for messaging and databases and observability. And of course, we can't forget GitOps and CI/CD systems. So all of these things in the ecosystem allow enterprises, end users, and even smaller, organizations to actually just have a very portable way of deploying and managing their applications. And more importantly, it kind of gives application developers a platform to make application development much easier and stop them having to worry about all of the different dependencies in their environment and in their infrastructure.
Now, let's talk about since the early days now, I think it's since last 2 years or maybe 1 year, when we come to this KubeCon, the only thing that we hear about is AI. With AI inference, intelligent agents, and of course, new workloads keep coming up. How is it also changing or shaping the priorities of the CNCF, communities, or the foundation itself?
I think what we're seeing is a merge where cloud native and AI are kind of becoming synonymous. I think the the one thing I've said a few times, I think I heard it at one KubeCon and I've kept repeating it. But if AI is the new application, then Kubernetes is the new web server. And what we're seeing is the ability of AI workloads are by their very nature distributed. They require sophisticated scheduling, both in terms of orchestrating the hardware, but also like orchestrating inferencing workloads and in future agents. And therefore, what we're seeing is a number of projects, including, schedulers like Volcano and new projects that kind of orchestrate LLMs like Kser, for example, are choosing the CNCF as their foundation. But it's not just about AI, right? Like part of the process of the maturing of the ecosystem is the fact that, we're looking at how do we make the systems, how do we manage these systems at scale in production? So it's coming down to, for example, how we do observability and how we build, these internal platforms, internal developer platforms that kind of, add on to the stack and add on opinionated components into a Kubernetes platform to make it easier for application developers to deploy in their environment. And finally, what AI has also highlighted is, the renewed importance on security. Not that security was never important, but it's kind of growing in importance as a result of AI as well. So we're seeing, the security products, the emphasis on SBOMs, the access controls with new projects like, for example, OpenFGA recently joining the CNCF. And we're seeing, the CNCF dealing with some of the challenges with the Cyber Resiliency Act and other such legislations that are happening in different geographies. But ultimately, there is one conundrum here, and it's kind of part of the maturing cycle as projects grow and kind of like pop out of the hype cycle to a certain extent, right? Like, all of those things I mentioned, like, service meshes or observability or all of those different things had their hype cycle. They got a lot of funding, they got a lot of focus, a lot of engineers. A lot of those things have gotten to a certain point of maturity where now they need to be sustained and they're coming out of the hype cycle. So part of the work that CNCF is doing in the TOC is ensuring that those projects remain healthy and continue to thrive in this new environment. Of course, with AI, we're seeing projects like Envoy, for example, get used to develop AI API gateways and things like that, and we're seeing renewed focus on a number of the different projects in the observability space or the security space being driven by new AI workloads. And I think, what we're seeing now is the growth of Kubernetes and those cloud native ecosystem in the inferencing space for AI. And I think that will be sort of the biggest focus over the next year.
Excellent, thank you. Now, you talked mostly about the technology part. Let's talk about the people part as well. As ecosystem is mature, but as AI which will also bring new vendors, new community members, which will create new opportunities and new challenges. How do you see that CNCF is preparing itself for a new breed of contributors, new breed of developers who are fully focused on this new breed of AI-focused cloud native applications, technologies, projects, as they will build it for the next generation of platform?
I think what we see is, there's a lot of the work and a lot of the sort of the people side of things evolve and adapt. So for example, you have existing projects like Kubernetes, develop features like the array to allow for the better orchestration of GPUs. You see, projects like Envoy being used in all sorts of, gateways and influencing projects. You see new projects come along like Kser, for example, that orchestrate AI workloads across, homogeneous clusters with lots of different types of GPUs. And you also see new security drivers and new observability drivers for AI. So whilst there is, a lot of new projects which are coming in, there's also the adapting of existing projects to deal with the new types of workloads. I don't see it as, like a switchover. I see it more of an evolution in most of those cases.
The only challenging part is that AI is not as open source. Most of the AI these days is still proprietary, though Linux Foundation and a lot of work is going on. Ray just joined the foundation. So a lot of work is going on, but it's still largely proprietary. There is DeepSeek, is there a lot of proprietary. So it might bring a different kind of...
I think we should distinguish between, for example, open sourcing of models versus open sourcing of the infrastructure tooling that allow those models to be run, right? I think those are different things. Some models are open source to some extent or another. Other models, as you said, are proprietary. But a lot of the software stack is fully open source. And the stack that you use to orchestrate AI workloads, to run clusters for inferencing, to run LLM as a service effectively, that is all open source, and that is what the CNCF is focusing on.
You have been in this space for so long. What I do know that there's no community. There are communities. Even within Linux kernel, there are different communities. So there will be, and now let's talk from Akamai's perspective. How do you see the AI communities or AI native communities and cloud native communities will be intersecting, and what role like vendors or players like Akamai can play as a bridge between these two communities? Because the fact is that a lot of AI folks, they have nothing to do with cloud native. They have nothing to do with the open source. They have nothing to do with, because it's a totally different world altogether. Cloud native is a totally different world altogether. So now they are coming closer and closer because that's what the workload you demand. So what role you feel that organizations like Akamai or even CNCF can play as an intersection?
It probably is fair to say that, a number of the largest AI communities, AI vendors like OpenAI or Anthropic are, not members of the CNCF today. But I think what you'll find is that the organizations that are running those infrastructures are part of the CNCF. And I think that's where the focus is. So, what we're seeing now is this on the keynote, we announced the Kubernetes AI Conformance initiative. And this conformance initiative is effectively ensuring that Kubernetes can run AI workloads in a portable way. And we've had, all of the large cloud providers, including Akamai, sign up to the conformance and prove that they are actually compatible. And what this means is that now it makes it easier for all of those different AI companies, whether they're whether they're one of the big mega companies, all the way down to smaller companies building their first inferencing cluster, for example, can do this on Kubernetes in a reliable way, with taking advantage with the observability and the serving of LLMs and the GPU orchestration as part of that cloud native stack.
Alex, once again, thank you so much for joining me today. And of course, not only recall when CNCF was announced, when Kubernetes was announced, and how the community and the projects has evolved over years. And irrespective of what new technologies, what is the new shiny object, CNCF community, cloud native, landscape continues to grow to accommodate all those new projects, new use cases. And then, of course, players like Akamai are actually glue that binds it all together.
That's
So thanks
exactly
for
right.
sharing all those insights, and I look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you.
Thank you again, Swapnil. It's so fantastic to be here, talk to you, and be part of the KubeCon community.
Same here. Thank you.